and welcome to Denver March Podcast. I'm your host, Larissa Nobraid, and I'm also the Powwow Coordinator for Denver March Powwow. Thank you for tuning in to episode 5, and before we get started, I would like to read our disclaimer. Those who are interviewed were raised, taught by family and tribal teachings. There are over 500 federally recognized tribes, and some teachings might be different from what you were taught, but that is the beauty of this project, learning how powwows connect us all, but how our tribal differences make each and every one of us unique. Our next guest is one of our longest MCs we've had at Denver March Powwow. You might have heard his voice at one of the many powwows he's announced over the years from the US to Canada, sporting events in North Dakota, or conferences. I'll let him introduce himself and then we'll get started.
I'm Lawrence Baker. I am a Mandan Hidatsa. I am also a San Lucido Band of Mission Indian. I have been born in Palm Springs, California, raised in the Palm Springs area for a few years. And then I spent the rest of my life on the Fort Berthold Indian Reservation, except for 6 years of Catholic boarding school. So I've kind of been everywhere. I was out on the East Coast for 3 to 4 years, supporting the Rubber Eagle powwows, as they were known on the East Coast. But I am a Chicken Clan member, and I am a child of a Midi Body, a water buster. And I have 3 children, was formerly married, now I'm divorced, back in love, such are things. And I am an MC. I've been an MC since 1995.
Wow, that's a really long time. No, I'm kidding.
Yes, I'm really, really old.
Gee. Okay, well, I guess we'll get started with the first question. How did you become involved with emceeing powwows?
How did I become involved? That's a good question. On the East Coast, where I sang with a group called the White Oak Singers in 88, 89, 90, 91, up to about 93, we did presentations and shows for Department of Energy, BIA, any of the Health and Human Services boards. We did stuff with the Smithsonian. We did all kinds of things. And as we would sing and have to have somebody either explain, narrate, orate what we were doing and explain some of the songs, talk about culture, talk about dance, I happened to be the person that would talk for those things. And I always found it easy. So I never had a hard time with that. Then you go back further to that. I was, what would you call, the president of the student body. And I would get up and talk in my senior year. And before that, in some of the infamous stories that have been heard about me, I used to mimic people, and never thought, never knew that it would go anywhere. And then in 1995, I was on the Little Shell Celebration Committee, and they said, you need to read these posters all day on camping day. And those of you that don't know what camping day is, that's usually used to be a Thursday before the powwow started, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And so I got stuck in a little shed area and was announcing posters all day long. And that's how I got my humble starts on becoming an MC.
Wow, that's really cool. I feel like when we're at the powwow, we don't really get to hear that kind of side from the MCs because you guys are so busy MCing or announcing other stuff. When did you first come to Denver March Powwow?
I first came probably in 97, 98. And I don't remember if I was there in 2000 or 2001 as a singer. I came as a singer and sat where the singers sing. And I sang with Mandaree those times that we came down to be at Denver, not to MC. I believe the first time now, I have a little bit of a COVID memory, and so I'm not as sharp as I once was. But I believe 06 or 07, around in there, I got my first start at emceeing the Denver March celebration. And up to that time, I had been a few places as what would you call it? At that time, a new face to the MC world. And the other thing that people don't realize is I started out becoming an MC in my 26th, 25th, 27th year of my life, is when all of that started formally. I had been talking, all the way up till the time I was whatever, till whatever. But formally, I actually never got on the mic formally until I was at 27. And of course, at that time, I thought that was relatively young to be up there. And I always had a fear of being too young, that people wouldn't take me serious or know what I have. And then throughout the years, I've controlled my dad voice. And so sometimes I sound older. Sometimes I sound so much wiser. They call that my dad voice. And it's served me well. And now being an old guy, of course, now I feel young, but that's another story.
Oh wow, that was really interesting. So since you've been one of our longest announcers, I wanted to bring this up, but what were your thoughts when we had to call off the powwow in 2020 because of COVID? Like what were you thinking after like we made that decision?
I I I agreed with the decision. And I guess I agreed with the decision because it didn't come from a place of wanting to do that. It came from a place from our safety, I believe. I believe it could have still happened, but I don't know who would have been there, because of safety reasons. And always, I believe for the longest time, as I believe, and I don't want to speak for Denver March Committee, but I think it's always been about getting together and the feelings and sharing things. And as I've said before, in a crossroads of the United States, Denver is at the crossroads from every direction. And for us to say that we're not going to do that, I kind of think it sent a seriousness to the epidemic that we were going to sit back and say we care about our safety, and there are a lot of older people, because at the time it was affecting older people, and we didn't know where it was going to go and how it was going to affect our people. And so with not knowing that, I think the safety became the first issue of a lot of different things. And I know, again, a lot of different people will say we should have did this, we should have did that. But I think for my reasons, I thought it was sad, of course, because it's been such a long lived tradition before me and probably after me. But I was sad, but at the same time, I understood, and I knew that it was something that's just not going to touch us all in a way that we might not be able to come out. And again, we didn't want to be the cause of anybody contracting or being anything. So I think the whole shelter in place and be safe, and then design the world around Zoom, I guess that was another thing. But yeah, I was a little heartbroken over the deal, but at the same time, I knew as safety reasons. So
Yeah, I can't believe it's already been 4 years since that time. And I was just kind of thinking about, I think it was around this time we were seriously considering it, and there was just like a lot of what ifs. Oh, it was awful. But actually one of my favorite memories after the pandemic was in March 2022. And you were actually one of the first head staff to kind of express yourself that you were happy to see everyone and that we all made it through the pandemic. And it just seemed to like kind of give the breakfast meeting like a better mood. Like, yeah, we're ready to powwow, we're back, and we're ready to celebrate life.
exactly those, a lot of good moments when we came back. And
Mhm.
tried to be positive. We lose track in putting on Denver March as just another powwow, another celebration, another gathering. But it's this powwow, I would believe, amongst all of them, has such a community, not only of our relatives that are living in Denver, but the community that expresses and shows that family, that time of togetherness, that time of visiting and joking and having a good time during the Denver March, which some of us don't get to experience too much, except in the beginning, during, and a little bit after, because we're working, we're running around, we're busy, and I wish there would be 5 of me that could go visit the vendors more and go visit the people in the crowd more and visit all of our older board members and their families, and then the singers and then the dancers. And it's just, I try to communicate all of that over the mic, that presence of family and together. And again, it's been kind of easy to do, but it's always been hard because you have all of our nations coming together and trying not to be too influential in my Hedadza, Arikara, and San Luciento Banda Indian ism. I'm trying to be the spokesperson for everybody there. And all of our culture identifies, we just do things differently somehow, some way, through ceremony or through different things. And we try to keep it as basic for everybody to enjoy, and hopefully nobody to get offended.
Yeah, I agree with that. Actually, this was kind of funny. Earlier this week, I was going through our Facebook comments and someone made a comment like, "Oh, this powwow is run by an urban Indian. She's an Arikara woman," and da da da. I think they were talking about grandma, but I wasn't sure, but it just kind of made me laugh because it's like, well, she grew up on the res, but she lives in Denver now, but I don't know, it was kind of a funny hater comment.
It's really, and because you've lived there all your life and not on a
Mhm.
reservation too, it's really a misnomer. It's some kind of tragedy that us reservation Indians, who are caught up in a lot of crabs in a bucket, so anybody gets ahead or shines, we want to pull them down, not because we're jealous. Well, maybe it is because of jealousy, but we want to do that because we don't want to get anybody ahead of us. And I don't know why. And I've met a lot in my travels. I've met a lot of urban Indians that are still clinging to and hanging on to traditions, traditional medicine, how to harvest traditional medicine. I've had urban Indians that are actually in the home of where they gathered medicine, and they know where to gather it. And so, even being in those urban areas, they perpetuate that we no longer travel to these areas to collect medicine. We live here and know where it's at. And that is really outstanding. Language also. They're speaking fluently. I know a lot of times our language is lost as soon as we get away from where we're at, and we love to hear it, and language and culture and hospitality and how we were raised to be hospitable. All of those things still remain in the urban area, and I just love that. And so I don't know where the myth began or focuses on. I've never seen it to the extent that we exaggerate it, because people are still living those lives. People are still darning themselves with traditional regalia, traditional beadwork, dancing their style, dancing and keeping the culture alive. So I don't know where that myth comes from. And I really, and I don't, not saying that just to say that with dealers, because I lived on the East Coast for 4 or 5 years too. And like I said in my introduction, I participated in rubber eagle powwows, and that's the hobbyists. So you had white people or any kind of tribe other than indigenous trying to portray indigenous people. And we sometimes see that at Denver too. They feel the spirit. They want to get out there. They want to dance. And, that's a part of it too. On the East Coast, they were doing that too, but they would get together. So we were singing out there. We were dancing out there. We became part of that. A lot of them learned off of us. A lot of them welcomed us because they wanted that spirit in their circle. So I don't know what that's about. So yeah, that could be a whole podcast next time.
Yeah, the next episode. Hey. But yeah, I don't know, I kind of agreed with what you said. Like, growing up, I feel like my family really, they put in extra effort to make sure like me and my sister, went to different ceremonies. We knew, the different dance styles, what dance, the songs and all of that. But yeah, I don't know. It was just like a funny hater comment. So anyways, but I'm also glad you touched on that too, because the other thing I don't think some people realize is that Denver March is kind of for some of us that live in the city, it's kind of one of the few things that we look forward to. A lot of our families travel here. It's how we reconnect. It's how we learn stuff, and it's bigger than just a powwow, I think. But that's just my opinion.
No, I totally agree. I totally
Mhm.
agree.
And I do think we are going to have kind of a larger year this year just because of the native representation in the movies, TV shows, in fashion. As of right now, we have like I think we're at 20 schools that are planning on visiting Friday morning, and that's the most we've had in a long time. So it's
Yeah,
getting exciting.
I don't know where all of a sudden. I mean, I used to love, coming there 18, 19 years, and just the school kids going crazy that Friday morning and calling them out and shouting out and having them come forward. I want it to be exciting for them. I want it to be something that they'll remember. The other thing that I love doing about that is maybe they'll bug their parents and maybe we'll see them as a family Saturday or Sunday night. And I really think that's interesting because when you touch people, young people, they remember. They remember the fun and the kindness they've had. And we really haven't had very many schools because of the pandemic. And there were a few things too that people were trying to stay away from. I don't know why. And I really love seeing that. That's one of my favorite parts. There's all kinds of favorite parts I have at Denver March, but that's one of my favorite parts on Friday. Is getting the school kids revved up. I just love that.
That is really the like excitement of Friday morning. So speaking of that, what is your favorite memory of Denver March?
You know what? I have so many memories of Denver March. Um, One of my favorite memories. I have so many. I hate to say one, but one of my favorite memories early on was getting to come and work with Lance Allrunner, as you have some pictures. One of my favorite memories to joke and visit with him and catch up on the year. One of my favorite memories is being there and able, and I kind of think, and you may think this too because you once were, the crowning of the Denver March princess or dignitary thereas, because I believe it's so life changing to a young girl and to see these women and a young man that we put in there um change, and not in a way that's bad, but change in a way that they all of a sudden understand the world is bigger than them, and their beauty and brightness and the spirit of why they were chosen shines through. Even though some are shy, some are scared, some are nonchalant, some are, whatever their persona is in social media or whatever, they almost all break down and cry. And I'm getting older now in the last 8 years that I'm almost crying too. And even bringing it up, I'm kind of teary because to be there at somebody's awakening into the life of what they had, and then to be chosen. And again, this isn't how do you walk? How do you talk? How's your culture? What are you doing? How are you? This goes back to who's your family? How are you being raised? Are you significantly somebody that somebody wants to approach? And I just think in all of these years, seeing that power, strength, and inner beauty in all of the pageant has been really something for me. And I guess maybe that sounds maybe crazy to our audience that I would choose that. But I've known all of these young people from that point forward. And to see them, some like you, when you were younger, and to see you grow into the beautiful, positive woman that you have become, I think that aspect of your life had a lot to change to put you in there. I think you would have got here where you're at right now on your own. But I think that setting you to a path that we don't know where it will lead, and all of them, whether they're mothers or whether they're council reps or whether they're high up CPAs, lawyers, doctors, aunties or uncle, all significant roles in their lives. And what I mean by that is to realize your power is just extraordinary. And I guess taking a look at my life, I pick that point because somebody, some individual that was on the lead woman society of the Antelope Society, the lead woman, picked me, a knucklehead, at 24 years of age, and said, come up here and speak for me. Put all this stuff on me and said, now you are the speaker for our society and our people from now on. And I'm standing there going, did that just happen? And I'm like, wow. And it changed my life. It changed my life. I look at it now, it changed my life. Goofy people say to me, man, I remember you used to do this and you used to be this way and do that. And you hit 25 and all of a sudden you're an old man. I'm like, what? Hopefully I didn't look like an old man, but I guess I was an older man. And what I mean by that, or what I take by that, is I became responsible overnight of who I was and how I was, how I would be perceived on the mic, what I would do, what I had to do in order to be a respectable person, to try to comment and talk and joke about our way of life. And I don't even know if I would be here had that not happened and changed my life. I hope, like I said to you, that I would be here, but I don't know what condition I would be in. It just set a tone. And that of picking somebody out and seeing in them that is unseen by the person that you see them grow into is just mind blowing. It's just mind blowing. I'm like, who sees that stuff? And I don't think even in our maybe expectation pick for royalty, even those that may have not risen to where they should have risen are still doing good. They're still doing functional and things that, you know, make them people. And I really think that is overwhelming. And I just wanted to say, because I don't get a chance. So I guess to me, that moment, and of course, crying because the one that I talked up the year before is leaving, and them getting to talk. And I feel like, and maybe you can comment, that I get them to cry. And I'm not intentionally doing that because I'm wrapped up in the emotion too. As I'm sitting here, I'm almost crying too. But my deal is, it's so emotional and powerful when those that have spent their whole year talking and going and dancing and supporting the Denver March Celebration Powwow they get up there and they give their last speech. And you know that. You've done that
Mm-hmm.
yourself before you pass it to the next person. And I feel like, God, they must all say, that darn Lawrence just made me cry, or I wasn't going to cry, or I was ready to go, because the moment is so huge
Mm-hmm.
on that stage with 25,000 people out in the crowd, and you're addressing them. And it all kind of hits you at once that I'm not going to be able to do this again.
Yeah.
This was the end of a moment in my life. And I'm like, wow, I was here. And I'm like, that just kind of blows my mind. So I wanted to make that a point. Maybe I'm wrong in doing that, but I just think that is so spectacular for that individual and their family,
Mm-hmm.
because there's no politicking for it. There's no, it's raise your children right, make them
Yeah.
respectable to the arena. Keep your nose clean,
Mm-hmm.
study hard, look forward, have a vision, be good to people.
Yeah.
Just normal things that we try to teach our kids, and somebody else sees it. And I'm like, wow, wow. Anyway, I'm glad I don't get to pick.
Um, no, you're right. Cause like I've just been thinking about different memories starting this project, but I forgot to tell TT this, but I remember like my family kept telling me, practice your outgoing speech, like probably from here on till the powwow. And I kept teasing them. I was like, hello, my name's Larry. And then I was like pretending I was crying or whatever. And then that's what ended up happening. But I think that's happened because like you were saying, or when you were talking, you were just like talking about all the stuff you've seen us, or seen like me do throughout the year. And then that's when it hit me like, oh my God, it's coming to an end. The rest of my speech, I was just like crying. But it is a powerful moment, and unless you've lived it, or like for you, you've like, seen it so many times, you don't really understand like what's going on. I'm sure from the audience it looks like, oh, like those the girls are just crying around or whatever, but it really is like an emotional moment.
And I haven't been in many other. I've been in a few pageants. I've been a judge down in Seminole Country. I've been in a couple of places, but
Hmm.
um, I really, really, for lack of better words, I just love the process and
Hmm.
the pageantry that we do for that person, and we do make a big deal of it, because it is basically the first look that anybody gets to see of our Denver March ambassador, our
Hmm.
or that they get to see at a gathering, at a celebration. And I really love that. I also love when all of the different royalty starts coming in. Like, I get a kick out of it because I did Seminole Fair in Hollywood for about 12 or 13 years. I get a kick out of their princess coming to Denver, because that's really maybe their first or second venue out of being a royalty. And so I'm always teasing them, and I don't know who their family is, but I just love that, because this is their first time. So again, one of my good memories. Again, in the middle of the United States. So another good memory, another good thing is running into people I haven't seen in quite a long time, from singers to dancers to different people.
Hmm.
And I love that. One of the craziest things, by going to Denver, and I've been going there for almost 20 years, is the fact that people think they know me because they've heard me. And since, as you know, and maybe the podcast don't know, but I am in love with somebody. I did find somebody, and I really, really enjoy her company, and in love with her. And she's not a powwow person, so she's been to Denver in this last couple of times. And it's crazy, because as an older person, and you know this as well as anybody, we know everybody. I just can't remember everybody's name. I remember faces. COVID really messed that up for me more. And so Denver, I get all kinds of people coming up to me and talking to me and visiting me. And Charity will look at me after, babe, who was that? Who was that? You really were laughing, who was that? And I go, I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I know them, but I don't remember the name. And then later on, I have to ask somebody else, and I'm like, oh, okay. Then I'll tell her. And again, I don't ever want to be disrespectful, because as Indian people, it takes a lot for them to come up and visit. And I don't ever want to put anybody off or to ever make anybody feel less than. And it'll either come to me, pre-COVID, it would come to me eventually. But now that I have COVID, I'm like, man, I'll be just totally lost without knowing who that is, or having to ask, or any of that. My kids are always teasing me, geez, you just visit them for 20 minutes. You don't even know who they are. And I'm like, well, I know who they are. I just don't remember the name. So that I love. But sometimes I'm like, I realize and track down that I don't even know who that was. I mean, literally. So they're a fan that has been listening to me for the last 16, 17 years. And they get to know me through the mic, and they come up and talk to me. And I don't say I don't like that. I try to visit everybody, but I wish I knew them a little bit more. But sometimes they'll come up and say, hey, I've been listening to you for the last 15 years, or I really appreciate you. You got me through some hard times. And I'm like, okay, I don't know what I said, but hopefully it was something that you needed to hear. And I really appreciate that. So those are some of my favorite moments, even though they're a little awkward. Those are still some of my favorite moments.
Those are really good moments. And I do agree with that when people come up and they'll like talk to you, because I'm at that point now and I'm like, I wish people would just kind of say their name when they come and shake their hand. But yeah, I kind of get that.
Yeah.
So do you have advice for those who might be interested in emceeing and or are starting out?
If you're starting out, let's go back. My first thing is, if it's something that you want to do, or something that you think you have the ability to do, then the first thing to do is try to get out there and do it. You've got to start first. Second thing is, when you do start, you have to remember, and I tell this to everybody, and I'm so repetitive of it. I kind of hate myself when I say it again, but everything that we do in life is a teaching moment. And the only way you learn is by messing up. And if you're not afraid to mess up and keep going forward, then you won't have a problem becoming an MC. And what I mean by that is, you'll mess up. Sometimes when we talk, we pause. And if you're in the middle of a sentence and you pause, it makes it sound like you were trying to say something else. So people take you a different way. We're either too slow or too fast when we're announcing, and an enunciation doesn't come out right. And it could be, I swore he said this, and that's not what it meant. But if you're able to get over that, and I've done some doozies in my life, and I still get teased for a few of them, but for the most part, it's how you learn to move forward and to keep going. I have always enjoyed being an MC once I became an MC. And so I go back to another story that I tell you that I used to mimic. And one of the announcers that I mimicked was the late Pete Coffey, old man Pete Coffey. And he had such a voice that I don't know if we'll ever hear that beautiful voice ever again. And I was a child, 7 or 8 years old, and I would listen to him at powwow, and I would mimic him, not trying to make fun of, not politically correct, or any of those words that we know now. I just love the sound of his voice, and I would copy him. Sometimes similar found in music today, of people talking about Walter Cronkite and how he enunciated and had that deep voice, and you're like, wow, you could just listen to that. Pete Coffey had one of these voices. And so I would mimic him. I would mimic him and mimic him and mimic him. And well, I didn't have no aspirations of being MC. I never had no aspirations of announcing. But as a young man, I'd be in my basement with a comb in my hand, having full giveaways with nobody there. And I was doing it in Pete Coffey's voice. I did not realize I would someday have my own voice. And hopefully, if the art of flattery, what I did for him, old man Pete, is maybe done for me, that would be something because of the distinguished voice that I have. But I didn't have that voice in the beginning. I was copying Pete Coffey. And so much so, when I go back to the story of 1995, when I was announcing in that room and reading posters, because no MCs had got there on camping day, I did that whole day. And unbeknownst to me, at 5 o'clock, and I was the only one in there all day long, 98 degrees out, people start coming to that shed and bringing food and lemonade and food. And I'd say, oh, hey, how's it going? And they'd say, hey, there's an old man in here has been announcing for 5 hours straight. And we brought lemonade and we brought food from the camp. We want to feed him. I said, oh, okay. Well, when he gets back, I'll sure give him the food. And I must have got about 5 plates and about 10 drinks when it realized to me, it was me. I was the old guy because my voice was not Lawrence Baker's voice that you hear right now or through the Denver March speakers in the Coliseum. I was still mimicking Pete. And I did it so naturally that I just totally didn't know I was doing it in the real world. So from that point forward, I had to find my own voice, Lawrence Baker's voice, and be a speaker. And it's all jokes, it's all mess ups. And throughout that, my life, that's who made me stronger, because I could no longer rely on Pete's voice, because Pete was that of an old man and I was 25. I had to find my own voice. So I think getting back to what would you recommend, first you got to be able to do it, and you got to have the strength in your back and on your shoulders to take the criticism, to do what you have to do. Because there are points in my life, just like golf, I'm not the best golfer, but I get one good shot, one good chip, one good putt that keeps me in it. The same with emceeing. I have had people that cry and tell me that these are the expressions that we wanted to do. You told how we felt in our heart, not what we just told you. You made that special come alive in a way that I could not fathom in my head, but I wanted you to do the best you could, and you surpassed. It's those moments of families and people feeding back to me. And again, not that I'm the best and I'm the greatest. I never said that. But just those things that think, wow, I must be doing something right. I must be doing the things that were asked of me or told to me. What little gifts I have, I've brought it to the mic to express, to make people feel, to make people think, to open people up, to make them understand. And so that is what has been keeping me going all these years, that I must be doing something right. Somebody did choose the right person. It wasn't just that knucklehead kid running around the powwow. It was somebody that actually had the gift. So you may have that, or you may not. You may be a great speaker and not have any knowledge, but the knowledge will come. You may be a knowledgeable person, but not a great speaker. It'll come. But the first thing is to start. Everything starts with starting and having the wherewithal that people are going to say things to you. And if you're not too extraordinarily bad at it, you will get it and you will persecute persevere and move forward if that's what you want to do. So that's my advice. Kind of too long, but take what you need.
No, I think that was good. I don't I don't know what that was. Anyway, I just feel like um there's some people that maybe want to get into it, but they just don't know where to start, or maybe their community maybe needs someone to, fill that role. So I think that was good. Mm.
I think there are all kinds of announcers though.
Yeah.
For me, I believe that my gifts are in expressing how the people feel,
Hmm.
entertaining audiences of all color, and moving things along. I have ran into excellent, excellent announcers that are only at the level of being at home
Hmm.
and just doing the announcements that go by. I have run into people that talk for other people and at giveaways, at war bonnet parades, when people want other people to express and know their family's lineage. They're all those kind of people.
Yeah.
So even though myself and Charlie Moran are the only alleged MCs, there are still about 6 or 7 other guys that can get up and talk. The late Delvin Driver was one who got up and talked, maybe not an MC, but his son DJ now. I've tried to talk to him to say, hey, you need to come to the circle. You need to do these things. And he was at Little Shell for the MC job this past year, and then does some of the speaking for the giveaway. So again, we're slowly getting some people in there, but there are a lot of people that will talk for other people. So I'm not just saying it's one or done. There are quite a few, but none that basically handle the whole deal, you know. And what I mean by the whole deal is the flag raising at 8 in the morning, the powwows that go on at 1 and 7, all the gift giving that goes through at supper time, or going back to camps for naming, featherings, and then announcing that, and society doings and gatherings, and I've had the opportunity to be a part of all of that, but I've seen different young men in different positions that have done those kind of things. So you know it's just what do you want? Do you want to move on and make this? But I'll also tell you, after all these years of doing this, I I have always wished, and maybe I'm getting my wish now, and I kind of don't like it, but I've always wished that I could make a living doing MCing all throughout the world. And I'll tell you right now, I haven't. It's been a lot of fun, and it has been a lot of extra. But in order to survive and raise a family, just like any powwow person will tell you, you have to work. You have to do whatever, unless you're at the top of your game. You know what I mean? But everybody at the top of their game, dancer, singer, MC, they're that is the job, hopefully, that they were created for. That's their career. But in order to survive and live, they have to have a job. And so that's what you got to do. So either way, it wasn't meant to live on, which I wish we could do. Maybe when I get a little bit older, since I'm so old right now, that might happen. And I'm just enjoying what life throws. Again, I get formally asked to do the Denver March every year, and it just thrills me to be asked to do that, because I'm kind of an old style guy. I guess I just don't assume or take for granted the time that I've been in Denver. I am overjoyed and overwhelmed at being selected as their MC every year. And it just so happens it's run together all of this time. And jealousy, people say I'm the voice of Denver March. There have been a lot of different voices for Denver March, and I'm just proud to be one of them and the longest at it. My other longest gig, again, was Hollywood, Florida, 11, 12 years. And I appreciate them. They went with different announcers, and I appreciate that. I'm not bitter, not no longer, but I'm not bitter because it's everybody's choice. And I think it highlights their powwow. But, I also think being asked every year to come to Denver has been one of the highlights of my 20 some years of doing powwow, because it was really asked of me and presented to me in a way of a family member being asked that, hey, Lawrence, we're doing ceremony. Now you're the fire watcher. You're no longer the gatherer of the wood. You're a fire watcher. Hey, you know what? Now you're not doing the fire anymore. You're bringing water to the dance, or you're bringing water to the ceremony. That's your job. Or hey, you're preparer now. You set up, or you keep the grounds, or you keep. It's like a hierarchy of society, and I happen to be in the hierarchy of the society to be put in behalf of the family we call Denver March as the MC, the voice of it. And so it's never been something where I've taken for granted or done any of that thing. I just am so proud to represent and to see all the family when I get down there. And I don't get up for breakfast for nobody except the Denver March meeting at 7 o'clock in the morning. And I haven't done that since I was 20s and 18 and stuff like that. So I really love that. I love everything about it. I love the feeling. I just wish people were blessed enough to be where I am so blessed to talk for the people and enjoy all of the people that represent on the board, even the arguments and even the stuff that nobody sees behind the scenes. We somehow come out of that and we're better for it. Somehow some of it had to be expressed. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I'm just giving, for example, that even our arguments are really blessed too. So, it's kind of a weird deal. And I think only you know that, and the committee knows those times. And I don't mean to say too much about too little, but I've really been blessed. So, yeah, I would say for the MCs that if you want to do it, get out there and do it. That's the first step. Have the strength, because you are going to be ridiculed. And if you have the strength to keep going, because people are going to love what you do, and you've got to love what you do. And it all starts by loving yourself. So again, those are things that you've got to do. Get right with yourself and move forward. It's all a part of who we are and how we are. That's how I equate it to life anyway.
Yeah, and those are really good. Yeah, I think that was really good. I bet somebody out there will hear that and be like, okay, let's take the first step. Eh?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so for the last question, is there anything else you would like to add about Denver March Powwow?
I don't know. Have I said too much? Your podcast be too long now and full of too much information.
Um, it's up to you if you just want to, I don't know, add a little
I want
something
to
or
talk to you about a young gentleman who has so much power that puts us upside down, and his name is Filbert. No, I talk about Bill. He's got his own podcast to do whenever we can track him down.
Yeah, Filbert likes to cause problems at Denver March.
Such a busy person.
Uh,
I,
well,
I, I guess I would just say I would just love to say that for my life, I feel very special and very honored to be part of the podcast. I feel very special and honored to be part of the family of the Denver March celebration. All of the board members, all of the people behind the scenes, the volunteers, everybody that puts some kind of faith in me, that either I will talk when I have to talk, make something longer than what it's supposed to be to fulfill some other part of our area, make it shorter than it has to be to fit into our area, to slow down when we need to slow down, and to speed up when we need to get out of the Coliseum. And you know what I mean. Um, I think all of those things I I'm very proud of. I had a conversation with your grandma Grace, and it had been a conversation that I laugh at, because in a way, if you want to look at it, we're all being used for something. And if you want to look at it that way, you can look at it that way, or you can be used for the talent, hopefully, that you bring to the table. Um, and so somehow I've been privy to a conversation that Grace was having with somebody about, well, why did you ask me? Why would you ask me to do this? And why, well, because you're that type of person. I used you for I'm sitting there going, I wonder what Grace used me for, if there's such a thing. And so I bluntly asked Grace, because we're old enough now that there's nothing that's too whatever, because she's been a very, very good friend, almost like a grandmother, a mother, a sister, anything that you want to call, very close to me, my mind, my heart, my soul, my prayers, and she's also taking care of me.
Mhm.
So I say to her, Grace, what have you used me for? She sits there and looks at me and she goes, well, I seen you MC. I seen you do things. And there are all kinds of people that can handle crowds. And there are all kinds of people that can't handle crowds. And what I mean is, the venue at the Coliseum on any given night can be 25,000 or less. And when it's packed, like it has been the last couple of years on Saturday night, I mean, oh my gosh, overwhelmed with the amount of people. She said, I needed somebody that is going to not make the audience feel uneducated, but to educate, to not look down on them, but bring them along, to share a humor of our people, that we're not pitiful. Don't pity us. We're still moving. We're still striving. We have a struggle, and it is real. And we're here celebrating. And we brought you along. And this is sacred, not ceremonial, but sacred. And it's social. And we want to bring you along. And yes, we've prayed, we've smudged, we've done different things to come to this point. We didn't ask you to do that journey, but we're bringing you along, that you have these things. And she said, you were that person. And so I used you. And I go, wow, I don't really feel used. I mean, that was such a big compliment, that I'm like, wow, you saw something in me that I don't know if I seen in myself. And you put me in there. And I just happened to somehow fit. And for everywhere else, I think in that bond that I have with Denver, I always want to be at my best. I always want to be shaven, smelling good, dressed appropriately. I want to sound. I want to bring feeling and heart, and convey what the board members and the people of Denver want everybody to know about us in Denver, and that you've been invited to a spring celebration of life, a struggle that continues today, that we're still moving forward. And so I kind of feel very honored to hold that position. I don't know if it's a position, but to be asked back every year to have that. I began that journey with Lance Allrunner, the late Lance Allrunner. And I believe, like me, he imbibed all of that, what I am talking about, because he had that feeling also. And we were two young knuckleheads sitting at the podium and also questioning, what are we doing here? How did somebody entrust us with the mics to carry forward? And after all these years, and he's been gone quite a long time, but he was the start and the beginning of the feel of my journey with Denver March, because he was the other MC. And I think about him. I pray about him. I pray about everybody. And I don't pray about people that I meet. I pray for people that I were able to hear my voice and they got something out of it. And I don't know who they are. So my prayer extends to all of those people when I pray and think about different things. So in my way, in my life, I've had opportunities to come to bundles and pray about what do you want? And all I could pray about is that I'm grateful for the life that you've given me. I'm grateful for the voice and the people that I've touched. I'm grateful. I never get the chance to ask for what I want because I'm so grateful. And in that feeling, I feel the same way about Denver March. I'm so grateful for all of those board members, your grandma, and now you, and all the different people who have perpetuated me into being the voice of Denver March over the last 16, 17 years. So again, eternally grateful for all of that. And those are the things that I wanted to convey from now until eternity on podcast number 5 for the Denver March celebration. I want to invite everybody to come down and see us for the Denver March celebration. I want to take a second that if you hear this podcast, you've heard my voice or you know who I am. And if you ever want to get in contact with me to do a powwow for you or anything, you can always get a hold of Denver March and they will get a hold of me. And again, I'm always excited and grateful to go out and meet other people or do anybody's doings. I had the opportunity through Grace and the Denver March board to work at Council Tree for a wonderful lady that heard me at Denver and invited me over there. She recently lost her husband, but I want to say thank you to them people too that took a chance on me, asked me to come over. The hardest thing for people, they always say, we'd like to get you, but we think you're too much money. We'd like to get you, but we don't know how much you cost. We'd like to get you, but we just don't know how to get a hold of you. So to answer all that question is, you get a hold of Denver March. They're on Facebook. They got a platform. If you ever want to find out information from me, you ever want to invite me to a powwow, and everything is negotiable. All you have to do is ask. I have done things from all kinds of ranges. So again, I just enjoy it. People always ask me, man, you must make a lot of money at Denver. And I go, well, it's not really about the money. It's about being asked. It's about doing the things that I do. It's about meeting the people I meet. It's about people taking a chance on me. And I have paid that back, and they have paid me 1,000 times fold. So I come to Denver March, and yes, they take care of me very well, from food to lodging to visiting. And of course, they throw a little bit of money on me so I can get home. And that's all I really worry about is how do I get there and get home? And I've enjoyed that. So again, it's not really about the money. Again, it's about the feeling and the people and the need. So I want to throw that out. I shouldn't be shamelessly publicating myself like that, so I apologize. But my deal is I've gotten and am grateful for the Denver March Powwow board, all of those wonderful women and men that make up that board, all the volunteers. If you haven't been a volunteer, this is a great way to come and see the powwow. Volunteer. And then, of course, we want your money at the door because it makes the world go round. But if you're really curious and you really want to know, come and volunteer. Come up and visit us. Come and see us. these are the things we look forward to. There's a wonderful woman that takes care of that in the last couple of years and brought our volunteers up to be whatever. And now I'm shamelessly plugging us, so I'll stop.
That's okay. No, I think it's good you kind of shared your info on how to get a hold of you because maybe there are some people out there that do want to get in touch with you, but just don't know how or,
And Larissa, we've talked to. There's a couple of people that said, "Hey, we need your number. Can you give it?" And I always appreciate that. So again, if you really need to get a hold of me, this is where you can get a hold of me.
Yeah.
I'm
And
on
once,
speed dial.
yeah, speed down number two. Eh? But yeah, I just want to say thank you for coming on today to share some of your memories and experience with Denver March. And yeah, thank you for helping us do our powwow. Sorry, I'm trying to stop the thing.
And I'm really excited. The guy that retired, world famous Chico Hermini horses
Yeah.
in his spectacular Wranglers will be on display in the Coliseum. My brother as the AD. I'm excited about that also. This year, maybe for 1 year only. I'm not sure, but I'm
Um,
excited to get him back.
what I think is cool about that is his grandson Elias is actually our head judge. So now we're getting into the
Yep.
generational of the families
Yes.
at Denver March.
And even for me, when we came back, that quick
Mhm.
comeback that we made after pandemic, I worked with Zane Baker, the
Yeah.
AD. And Zane, like I said, back in 06, 07, 08, was a boy. His first time he's being at Denver. He was 5, 6, 7, 8. So, I
Oh.
mean, it's like, wow, our family are coming back together.
Mm-hmm.
It's always good. It's always good.
Yeah, it is. So I think we'll kind of end the podcast here and the long-term goal for this is maybe we can or down the road we can interview again and see what your new favorite memory is or if anything's changed. But I also want to say thank you to for encouraging me to do this project as well because I had it like in the back of my mind for a long time. It just seemed like I wasn't sure when I should do it and just things fell into place and here we are.
I like it. I love that you're doing it. I
Mhm.
think you're doing an awesome job. I know again, because I've known you since you were a little girl, that this is a little bit out of what we would say your comfort zone is.
Yeah.
But I think getting outside of your comfort zone shows the spectacularity that we all see that you're capable of.
Mhm.
So I'm really excited about you doing this. The other thing that I hope it does is bring us into another level, which is providing some of the things that we do in a conference form before the Denver March celebration happens, where maybe you want to become an MC and me and Chris are there, or maybe you want to just talk about what we do or where our inspiration comes from, or AD school, or head drum school, or what is it to even put on a powwow. Everybody can come to a powwow and listen to music, try to snag, and get an Indian taco.
Mhm.
Those are things that we're certain of. Nobody can just walk off the street and sit at a drum and sing.
Yep.
Nobody can walk off the street and get out and dance. Although a lot of people in Denver do, I'm saying competitive,
Yeah.
or get on the mic or run a deal. Nobody understands as a fan sitting there everything and the whole year you've realized to prepare for these 3 days is just unreal. Is just
Mhm.
unreal. And half of that year, or maybe more than that, is centered on the vendors and making sure everybody's not arguing to sit right next to Lawrence Baker at the MC booth and sell their wares. I think everybody wants to be right there. I don't know why. It's not because of me, it's just being front and center.
Yeah.
But again, it's all about spots and all about parking. And again, we apologize that we don't fulfill what you think your request or need is. But remember, there are 500 tribes and they're all vying to be in the best spot. So again, be grateful, be appreciative, be thankful. You're in the Denver March Coliseum. Just like I said, first thing about being MC, well, you got to start. First
Mhm.
thing about being a vendor or being in a good place, you got to start vending. And then hopefully you'll move up. Hopefully you'll do stuff. But again, that's a whole challenge that I know you, you and Grace and the board are in full tilt with right now. And it
Mhm.
comes off seamlessly for those 3 days, even though we've had our ups and downs. And I love all that stuff. I
Mhm.
love all that stuff. It's solutions. We come together and find solutions. I know we don't want to talk about our drama that we had, but we come together and we
Yeah.
found solutions,
Mhm.
and it became itself unraveled, and we just kept going forward. So I think that we're all there for each other, and I love to see that too, because that's part of family. So
Yeah. Yeah. Everything we mentioned here is like totally transparent, just totally real. But just want to say thank you to everybody who's listened to episode 5. Make sure to like and subscribe and tune in for episode 6. Haven't lined up the guest yet, but they'll be surprised. Okay,
I
so
just want
thank
to
you, everyone. Oh,
thank
good.
you for being out here and seeing us. And I want to say what I've always said for the last 20 some years: go Eds.